Good evening and welcome, everyone. I am calling to order the meeting of the Nevada City Council. Today is Wednesday, May 13th, 2026, and it is 6:30 p.m. I am your Vice Mayor, Lou Cece. Mayor Klein is out with a cold. I would like to start with the Nisenan tribe recognition. Daniela, please.
We acknowledge that the Nisenan people are still here among us today, though nearly invisible. We understand that we are on Nisenan land that was never ceded, and the original tribal families have yet to recover from the near genocide of their people. As a resident or visitor in Nisenan land, we support the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan tribe in efforts to stabilize their people as well as their campaign to restore federal recognition.
Thank you, Daniela. And Doug, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I would love to. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, in liberty and justice for all. I guess I can't.
Thank you to remember. Madam Deputy Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Peterson,
Here.
Councilmember Fleming,
I'm here.
Councilmember Fernandez,
Here.
Vice Mayor Cece,
Here.
and Mayor Klein is absent.
Correct. The next item on our list is the adoption of the agenda. Council, now is the time for any agenda modifications. Would you like to make any changes to the agenda, pull any consent item, or do you have any recusals to announce?
I'd like to pull the crime statistics item from the consent agenda. I think it's 8. I might be wrong.
Everyone agreed? Okay, we will pull consent item 8.
Let me double check to see.
No, it's not.
It's 2.
2, yeah, sorry.
Consent
Thank you.
item 2 is pulled at Councilmember Fleming's request. I am now looking for a motion and a second to adopt the agenda.
I move we adopt the agenda.
Second.
I hear a motion from Councilmember, what is your name? Peterson, and a second from Councilmember Fleming? Or was it you?
Fernandez.
Fernandez. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. We don't have any presentations, but we will be having a check presentation as if the agenda item passes as we think it will. Now is the time, however, for public comment on items that are not on the agenda. Government Code Section 54954.3 provides that any member of the public may address the City Council on any matter that is not on the agenda, that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. The Brown Act, with limited exceptions, does not allow the council or staff to discuss issues brought forth under public comment, and the council cannot take action on non-agendized items. Concerns may be referred to staff or placed on a future agenda. Please note that comments from the public will also be taken on the consent agenda and on each agenda item as the item is heard. Do we have any public comment?
Can you hear me all right?
Yes. Thank
Okay.
you.
My name is Walt Stickle. I live at 656 Nevada Street and have lived there for the last 15 years. And what I'm seeing you about is I got a petition from 30 of our neighbors to ask for a sidewalk to be put on Nevada Street on the northwest side, just below Hoffman Street, where there is no sidewalk currently, and people are forced to walk in the street, dodging traffic coming out of Hoffman Lane and coming out of Willow Valley Road, as well as down Nevada Street. I have copies of that petition, which was originally sent in 2020 to Baba Highsmith and Katrina Olson, and there was no significant response then. I resubmitted it again in 2022 to Sean Grayson, and he said, oh, well, bring it up again sometime. So here I am again, trying to get people to do something about it, because I hear that there are agenda items about doing sidewalks, and I thought this is the time for me to speak up. I brought samples of my petition and of the original emails. Who should I give them to?
Please give them to the clerk. You still have a few minutes left.
I'm available anytime to show that area to anyone who wants to see it. And besides, if there were no funds for a sidewalk, there's actually a path that's there that's just overgrown, and someone could go in there with a commercial weed whacker and clear the path. Also alleviating people walking in the street where there is no curb. That's all that I have. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments from the public on items that are not on today's agenda?
For the record, I'm Gordon Gossage with Regenesis Planet, and I know we're going to talk about, or you're going to talk about the sales tax and give some information on that. But I guess I'd like to bring up kind of the superset that the tax information is a subset of. And there's, I think, a lot of information on the retail side that we don't, have yet. And I also am not sure what people's opinion.
Just a moment, Gordon. I'm getting a signal from our attorney. Yes?
Do you mind bringing this up during the agendized item, please?
Excuse me?
Do you mind bringing this up during the agendized item?
Oh, no, let me, I'm not going to talk about the sales tax. I was just saying there's more to retail. And just as an example, I'm wondering if they've done intercept kind of analysis where you ask a visitor, what they've done here and what they like about the city, that kind of thing, as well as qualitative information, talking to the people who own the retail stores and, so forth. And for example, what do the local people do in terms of shopping versus the visitors, et cetera, et cetera. So basically to create, a diagnostic report is what it's known as. And there are different variations of it, you don't have to spend a lot of money. But again, I'm not sure what people's opinion of AI is. I know there's a lot of controversy with using AI with data centers and so forth. But one of the reasons that the data is so intensive, is that I did some work with the AI, stuff I did, and it went through all the agenda packets. It went through the strategic plan. Just imagine everything that's online, and extracted, retail-oriented things. And I think that often decisions are made based on emotion, not necessarily with data. But I do like to say emotion is important, I mean, people, when they think about vacant storefronts, a lot of times they really are thinking about the Alpha building, But it's important kind of to hear what those emotions are. The same thing is the concept of being over-touristed. A place like Venice clearly has too many tourists, and it's, it does kind of detract from the experience. But I think it would be good to know through an intercept analysis how people on the outside view Nevada City, whether there are too many tourists, as well as people on the inside. Anyway, if you want to talk about that another time, I'd love to. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. Do we have any other comments from the public? I'm sorry, but you've already used up your 3 minutes.
I just want to say that I'd like to have my topic added to the next agenda.
Yes.
Charlie Price, Zion Street. And one thing I want to say is I hope we keep old coin-operated parking meters on Broad Street. It's part of the historic nature of Broad Street. We're right on the cusp of going to credit card, modern. We don't have neon lights. We're going historic. Now's the time. 10 years from now, it'll even be more historic. People will be driving their kids here to show them what a parking meter was. You laugh, but I'm telling you, it's an ornament to the put the electronic ones in the parking lots, but on Broad Street, it's an image. I was a graphic designer for the Forest Service and visual communication, and these little bits help create the image. The other thing I want to mention is, As you come out of the Chevron station, you're coming on Sacramento Street, going over the freeway, and you're starting to head down. There's Prospect Street. As you come out of the Chevron station, you cannot see anybody turning off of Sacramento, taking a right onto Prospect. You have to get all the way and completely block the lane before you can see if it's safe to go or not. The bush that's blocking it is not on city property. It's right there at the edge of the sidewalk on the Chevron station's property. So I don't know if there is any ordinance that allows somebody to take care of that or not, but I run that route all the time for my dog, and I can't tell you how many times a week I've got to stop. I've got the right of way. They're coming out of a private driveway, but they can't see. So there's my comments. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Charlie. Do we have any other public comment on items not on the agenda? Okay, let us move forward then with the consent agenda, absent the item that you pulled.
Item number 2, yep.
Yeah. So all items under the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. Do we have any public comment on the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'm now looking for a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
I hear a motion from Councilmember Fernandez and a second from Councilmember Fleming to approve the consent agenda.
Minus item number 2.
Minus item number 2, which we will take up shortly. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Councilmember Fleming?
Yes.
Councilmember Fernandez?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sisi?
Yes. And I think now is the time to pick up that consent agenda item. Perhaps, Doug, you could explain why you wanted it pulled.
I wanted to have the chief talk about, so we've had a big drop in the number of arrests that we've made in our city. However, we've had this big increase in DUI arrests. You know, there were 28 DUI arrests in the last year, February to February. And that's like 2 a month or more than 2 a month. I don't know what the percentage is there. But, you know, I just would like the chief to talk about what's going on here, because I don't think we've had those in the last 3 years. We've had that many DUIs, you know. So anyway, I figured a chance to talk about some positive stuff coming out of the police department.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Councilmember Fleming. And yeah, so Vice Mayor, we have had a decrease in crime overall, which is excellent news. A lot of our crime, as you know, is responsive. That's people calling in when they do have crime. So when that number is dropping, and it's dropped pretty much month over month for the last several years, that's a good indication that our community is becoming safer. And we were already a safe community. And I think some of that you could see just by looking on the street outside. It's been going in the right direction. Thankful for our officers that are doing a lot of work out there. The 28 that you did mention for DUIs, that has become one of our strong focuses since I've been here, is DUI enforcement. DUIs in not just our city, but our county is a huge risk. These roads, we talk about them all the time, are windy, they have blind spots, and when you combine that with somebody that's driving while impaired, that makes it very dangerous. So DUI is very important to us for enforcement. The 28 that you do mention, the thing that's kind of remarkable about that wasn't for the police department, that was for one individual. So that was Officer Ruckert, wow. Cody Ruckert, got 28 DUIs last year, which
Was it for one driver?
it wasn't for one driver. That would be really impressive. But I think the highest before that was 22 or 24 by Officer Kendrick, Nick Kendrick, just a couple years before. So the officers are doing very good in enforcing that and keeping our streets safe. So I'm really proud of them, but I thought that definitely should be mentioned for him. That took a lot of effort to get that many DUIs, and he works night shift a lot, and he is very vigilant on making sure our roads are safe.
Is he just hanging out by the bars, or what is he doing?
No, he. I think he gets a lot of them when they're going
friend?
towards the freeways. But yeah, so
Oh,
be
off
aware.
the freeways. That's, yeah, that's nice.
Come to town, have a good time. Make sure you have a designated driver.
or a
they'll
place
get
to
you.
stay.
Well, that's huge. And also you said that you Mothers Against Drunk Driving is
Yep.
running with this as far as an
Yeah, he's
award?
going to get numerous awards for this, and I'll actually make sure I include that into a council report because it's a big number. I mean, I think that even, CHP, for example, that's pretty much what they do all the time, and he beat most of their officers. So that's a huge number for DUI arrests.
Fantastic.
Good signal to send.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Chief. I just wanted to highlight that as
Thank you. I
that's a
appreciate
good
that.
positive.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is it appropriate to take comment on that at this time? Do we have any comments from the public on that item? Or any comments from the council?
No, I think that's one of the most unsafe things that we live with in our lives, and I think it sends a very good signal about what we expect from people in Nevada City.
Hear, hear.
Okay, then we'll bring that discussion to a close. Now on to the general business of the council meeting.
You need to approve the item.
We have to approve that? Oh, yes, okay. We need to do a roll call for approving that.
You need a motion first.
I move that we approve item number 2.
I second that.
Motion by Councilmember Fernandez, second by Councilmember Fleming to approve item 2. Roll call.
Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Fleming,
Yes.
Councilmember Fernandez,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sisi.
Yes. Now we move on to the general business. Agenda item number 7, consideration of resolution number 2026-8, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Nevada City, California, authorizing an annual contribution to the Nevada City Rancheria Tribe in the amount of $2,500. City Manager, would you like to give us an introduction to this, please?
Sure. This item was requested by council, and I want to thank Stephen Erlitzson for crafting the staff report. I will note that we are using for the first time in our staff report the appropriate name for the nonprofit that supports the Rancheria Nisenan tribe in Hushue. So that's very exciting. And then we've also included a day that they can use the Miners Foundry for their events. I don't really want to speak on behalf of them, so if you want to do the check presentation and have representatives speak, that might be great as well. But item has been delivered to council. It's ready for you.
Great, thank you. I believe this now should be open to public comment? Public comment? Comment from the council?
Yeah. Thanks, Lou, for bringing this back around. It was a few years ago now, that Lou and I presented the first check to the tribe, and the intention was to have it be annual. And so we're getting right with that now, and I'm glad we are. So thanks for advocating, Lou.
Very good. Yes.
I would also comment, I really appreciate the continuing developing relationship that we've done, and how we had this in the strategic plan, and that we've taken good action on it for a long time in developing a really valuable partnership.
I think it's great too. I think that, us supporting the tribe is important too. And just to watch our support of them sort of dovetail, not that they have anything to do with each other, with the tribe getting, its legs under it and becoming more, resourced, I would say, and, just having a better approach to some of the things that they're doing, I think that just fits right into supporting them through that process.
And my comment is that I'm very glad that we are doing this on an annual basis, and I believe that means also the one day reserved from the Miners Foundry for them to use for Nisenan Heritage Recognition Day. I think those are good things. Yes?
You will need a motion and a roll call.
Should I read the whole resolution aloud?
You can if you'd like.
Okay, I'm going to read the resolution aloud so everyone can hear what's in it, and then we will have a roll call. Resolution number 2026-8, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Nevada City, California, authorizing an annual contribution to the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan tribe. Whereas, the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan are the original people of this land and have maintained a continuous, unbroken presence since time immemorial. And whereas the Nevada City Rancheria was established in 1913 by Executive Order 1772 and the Nisenan people have a profound historical and cultural connection to Nevada County, and whereas the federal trust relationship with the Nevada City Rancheria was terminated in 1964 without the consent of the Nisenan people, leaving them with no land base and facing significant challenges, and whereas the tribe is seeking to restore their federal recognition and is working to rebuild their land base through the California Heritage Indigenous Research Project, CHIRP, now known as Hushwe, and whereas this action is in support of two of the city's 2022-2027 strategic plan embedded initiatives. First, Nisenan, support for and collaboration with the Nisenan City Rancheria Nisenan Tribe, Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan Tribe, and two, engagement, community engagement and communication with stakeholders. Now, therefore, let it be resolved by the City Council of the City of Nevada City that an annual agency contribution of $2,500 be provided to the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan Tribe during the fiscal years 2025 through 26, 2026 through 27, and 2027-28, and be it further resolved that the City Council of the City of Nevada City authorizes one annual exemption use of the Miners Foundry annual agency contribution before the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2028, and be it further resolved that the City Council of the City of Nevada City will review the annual agency contribution provided to the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan Tribe before fiscal year ending June 30th, 2028. May I have a roll call, please?
I move that we approve the resolution.
I'll second that.
A motion by Councilmember Peterson, seconded by Councilmember Fleming. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Fleming,
Yes.
Councilmember Fernandez,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sisi.
Yes. And we would now like to present you folks with a check right here. Also, if you would like to make any comment, now would be the time.
Yay.
Good evening, everybody. Homakini. As silly as it may sound, we're still truth-telling. This is still a subject that is not common knowledge, and we can go leaps and bounds forward in one area like land back or a successful capital campaign, and yet still be trying to convince people that the history that happened here is real. And moments like this, it's not even the monetary piece of it, which is a piece of it, of course, but it's really everyone who stands up and sees us stands witness to our collective history, because it is a collective history. And yeah, we want to make sure we're on the right side of history these days. You know, it's all coming out in the wash. I think a lot of times our heroes aren't necessarily the heroes we were told they were, and pieces of history are missing from the story. And so anyway, thank you very much. This is really a big deal. I know other tribes that have had their counties or their cities give contribution in this way have really made significant changes in the tribe's visibility and their, I know we are who we are without you guys or anybody believing it, but when there's witness there and it's a collective seeing and truth-telling, it's just so much better than having to climb the hills by ourselves. So thank you very much. It's really awesome. And thank you for saying Hushwe. Hushwe, we're so excited, which means prayer or wish in Nisenan.
Nice.
Excellent.
Thank you, Shelley.
Daniela, would you join me?
Yes.
We get a picture? Yeah. Well, she's on it. Okay. Not by the flag. That's what we usually do, right? Not this way.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next thing, I might get this thing right by the end of the evening and before I leave office.
You haven't done it in a while.
Where are we? Oh, item 8. Receive an update on the Zion Sacramento pedestrian and bicycle mobility plan and adopt Resolution 2026-10, authorizing the city manager or designee to submit an application for Active Transportation Program Cycle 8 funding. And we have presentations from our esteemed colleagues from the Nevada County Transportation Commission and from Brian, our city engineer.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and council members. We're excited to talk about the project. I'm going to let NCTC and our consultant who's joining us remotely do most of the presentation. And so we're joined by Mike Woodman and Aaron Hoyt with Nevada County Transportation Commission. And Emily is with us with GHD Consulting, who helped prepare the plan. And we had several workshops, so the focus of this discussion will be on the results of that last workshop and where we're at with the project and next steps.
Yeah, Mike Woodman, Executive Director of the Nevada County Transportation Commission. Thanks for this opportunity to present to you. On April 2nd, we had a public workshop at the Miners Foundry to present kind of the culmination and the draft recommendations for the proposed improvements in the corridor. At that workshop, we did receive some feedback and some concerns with some aspects of the proposed project. And Emily Shandy with GHD is here today. She'll give you an overview of the input we received, what we looked at, how we could address that input, and kind of talk about next steps.
I believe it's up to Emily now.
Emily, we'll turn it over to you.
She looks frozen.
Thank you. Can you hear me there in the room?
Yes.
All right, I will share my screen then with the presentation. If you can see that in the room, let me know.
Not yet. Getting there.
How about there after I click the share button?
It's now a blank screen, so at least it's not us.
It says started sharing.
It's thinking.
There we go.
All right. Well, thank you, council members and vice mayor, for having us this evening. The purpose of this study was to evaluate the Zion Street and Sacramento Street corridor from Ridge Road up to Pine Street, including connections to Deer Creek Elementary and Seven Hills Middle School along some of the side streets on the corridor, and develop a recommended concept that improves walking and bicycling for school-aged children and families, and generally aligns with that active transportation program funding criteria, as we know that's the city's intent to pursue the rest of this project. We engaged the community throughout the planning process, as Brian mentioned, including both in-person and online opportunities to provide input. In spring of 2025, we gathered input on existing conditions, challenges, and opportunities along the corridor. Last fall, we presented a number of alternatives for the community to discuss in a collaborative process and identify their preferred vision for the project. And last month, we presented that recommended concept to the community to review in detail and provide input that was used to refine this draft plan. The preferred concept identified for the Zion Street, Sacramento Street corridor includes wider sidewalks on both sides of the street, along with raised bikeways on both sides of the street. Some on-street parking was removed to provide the recommended walking and bicycling facilities within the existing city right-of-way along the corridor. Raised intersections and raised crosswalks are included at key locations, providing enhanced crossings for people walking and bicycling, as well as calming traffic along the corridor. At Ridge Road, some raised islands and high visibility crosswalks help improve safety and visibility for people crossing the street. On Doane Road, a shared biking and walking path will replace the existing sidewalk on the north side of the street. On Reward Street, advisory shoulders will delineate space for people walking and bicycling while maintaining two-way vehicle travel, but discouraging use of that street for school drop-off. And at the Sacramento Street, Zion Street intersection, a mini traffic circle with raised crosswalks will help calm traffic while improving safety for people crossing. At our April workshop, the community was generally supportive of the proposed concept, but some concerns were raised about the loss of that on-street parking, in particular near the Food and Juice business kind of cluster and at the Forest Hills Charter School. In response to that, our draft plan does show some alternative cross sections for those two locations that would preserve on-street parking on both sides of the street rather than only one side of the street at those locations. So at Food and Juice, we've done this by transitioning the bicycle and pedestrian facilities to a wide shared sidewalk on both sides of the street. And at Forest Charter School, we're exploring an easement to potentially acquire right-of-way from the school, which would widen the corridor and allow room for bicycling and walking facilities while preserving that on-street parking. We are requesting City Council approval this evening for the city to prepare and submit an application to Cycle 8 of the Active Transportation Program to fund the remaining phases of this project. The draft plan is currently available on the project website for public review through May 27th, so about 2 weeks. And we encourage the community to review the plan, share your thoughts, whether you have specific comments or feedback on the recommended concept or not. Even a note just stating general support for the plan can help the city secure that competitive grant funding going forward. We are happy to answer any questions you might have about either the process or the proposed concept, and appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you, Julie. Emily, sorry. Further comment from our expert panel?
Yeah, I would just add, we developed an alternative concept in the area of Zion Street near the commercial properties, Food and Juice, the tortilla shop, to try and maintain that parking. So we do have an alternative concept that would maintain that parking. In relation to concerns near Forest Charter School, we have had some preliminary discussions with the superintendent of schools, and they are open to working and looking at ways where we could potentially, as we move into the future design and environmental phases, look at an opportunity to potentially move the trail and potentially grant an easement or provide extra space so we could maintain the parking. So that is something that we will continue to explore as the project would move forward.
Great.
Yes?
There is an additional bit of information that we'd like staff to share before we move on.
But Emily, I'll need you to stop sharing so I can share that.
No problem.
So the last slide is a timeline. We want to be realistic about the timeline because this is a very competitive grant. It's a statewide program, and that particular program is you get scoring based on points, and with some preference given to disadvantaged communities and safety improvements where there's been accidents. So we feel confident with the grant proposal, but if we were not awarded this cycle, then there would be another opportunity 2 years from now. So we'd like to propose submitting the ATP application in June, and they would announce awards in December, and then we would have, we're anticipating 3 years overall duration for design and construction. And that includes right-of-way and utility relocation. And so if we were to not be awarded the grant this cycle, it would be 2 years later. So just showing you the timeline there.
How soon would we have to submit if we want this cycle?
June
22nd.
Thank you.
And one thing to keep in mind for this ATP cycle, might consider applying for funding for furthering the project development work, the environmental design phase, potentially even the right-of-way phase. That will help answer some of these questions and really drill into the cost estimates that you could come back then with solid details in the future application and ask for that construction funding. Plus, it would allow you to kind of split the match funding, a smaller match amount to accomplish the project development work, and then come back and give you some time to try to secure that matching fund for the construction phase of the ultimate project. So that could be an approach that could be pursued.
Thank you. I think it's time to open it for a public discussion. Public comment on this resolution, which is to authorize the city manager to submit an application. So, public comment? It's a good reminder for me to turn mine on.
Good evening, City Council and staff. This is Jim Morris. I'm in the sphere of influence on Willow Valley Road, and I have two concerns. And I just yesterday met with Bjorn Jones with the Grass Valley engineer, and they did recently restriped, especially in front of City Hall, lane widths of 10 feet. And he's proud of the project. This project shows 11-foot lanes, and it's been shown, studies have shown that the narrower lanes actually do slow down traffic. He told me yesterday they've had no complaints with the 10-foot lanes, and he's proud of it. In any case, that's one concern. I think we should consider reducing to 10 feet instead of 11. The other concern I have is at Forest Charter School, the potential of removing trees to save some parking. I think that could be mitigated by sharing parking with the school. And that's an opportunity, like when soccer events occur, that's when there's a need for the on-street parking. But I think weighing the tree removal to save the parking, there could be some other options like sharing the parking that's in the school itself for especially soccer events. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. Other public comment?
That maps. Wow.
Evening. Leo Charnay. I happen to live at 626 Zion Street. And I happen to be an architect, and if you're a business owner, I'm also a registered CASP inspector on that. Anyway, I was able to print out the plans tonight, and I think it's a disadvantage to the public to have detailed plans like this without really input. The last meeting we had were tiny ones. Also, I think, if I'm not mistaken, they're still not taking into account the grade difference from side to side. And there's a budget, I think, of 15 million, but I would proffer probably 20 or more is probably going to have to cover that. On the plans, there's no street addresses, so if somebody looks at it as a non-professional, they won't be able to tell, where they're going there. And one last sort of hidden cost here is we're going to underground all the utilities. See, sewer, water, gas, maybe, electrical. Those are 4 utilities. That means that they're going to be disturbed, and the property owners are going to have to make their reconnection. In other words, they're connected to the water meter now, and now it's like, well, here's your new water meter. So that's probably going to be at least 5, maybe 10 grand per utility. So you're looking at 20 to 40. So I would just say, that's probably, budget is more like 25 and 50. Now, a lot of houses here are not really up to date and modern. Thing about the building code is you don't have to upgrade when there's a new building code. However, if you do this work, you're going to have to pull a permit, which is probably going to increase the cost to property owners. This is an unhidden thing. So I would just proffer, put the pause on that. And lastly, this is sort of lipstick on a pig, in my opinion, because you're trying to put safe cycling for children on a very busy street when right next door is Cyril's. And that is the perfect street. Berkeley did that with their Milvia. Thank you for the extra time. Okay. These plans are for anybody that wants to look at them in detail.
Thanks, Alil.
Charlie Price, 620 Zion Street. I know it's been a really busy street. It looks like a 35-mile-an-hour street. It probably was back in the day when it was the highway. So it looks like a fast street. And there's a lot of concern if we go to a 10-foot lane on a fast street, that could really be a danger. But it's not going to be a fast street. There's going to be raised sidewalk, crosswalks. And I would like to see a few stop signs where the traffic is stuck trying to get out of the school. Everybody picks their kid up at the same time and creates this huge lineup. There are people trying to get on Zion one way or the other. And it would help slow traffic down. So adding a few stop signs, the raised crosswalks, now you've got a slower street and you can do the 11-foot lane, which helps also keep it a slower street. Thanks, you guys.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Charlie.
Charlie.
Good evening. I'm Michael Keene. I'm a resident of Nevada City and a lifelong resident, as a matter of fact. I live on Reward Street, and I'm also a co-host of the bicycle show on KVMR. And as a very active bicyclist, I see the need for what's going on Zion Street, and I think it's a really worthwhile project, and I hope that you will support it. I'm also in favor of the 10-foot lane. I think that's really essential because speeding has always been an issue on Zion Street as long as I've been here. So it's something that I think really deserves immediate attention. So I would go for recommending funding, application for funding as soon as possible. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Andy Parsons. I live at 606 Zion Street. Right in front of our house is where the proposed roundabout goes. And so we've been looking at that, and I appreciate the other neighbors commenting, because there were three different things. I'm a former superintendent in our county of a school district, and I've been talking to the superintendents, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of partnership that goes into this planning. But I totally appreciate the work you're doing to support our kids. The two things, obviously, is the roundabout in front of our house, because I don't see that as being the most efficient way. And I know stop signs have been discussed, and raised crosswalks. Because when I heard the presentation tonight, I'm not sure if it adequately or accurately portrayed some of the feedback that the folks in the corridor were talking about. Primarily the roundabout. There was a lot of folks saying that that is not the appropriate way to do it. And secondly, the parking in front of Forest. That is a real big concern if we take a lot of parking away from there, because that is constantly being used by our neighbors, because they park across the street there, as well as the soccer and all the fly fishing, and they do all this stuff at the park, and they use that extensively. So those are a few of the challenges that I see, but I do appreciate the work that the city has done on this, because no doubt it is like a freeway going past our house. I just don't believe a roundabout is the appropriate way to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there. My name's Terry Charnay. I live at 626 Zion Street, right across from the school. And I have some real concerns about how fast we're going through the process. I think we need to slow it down. I looked to see the plan and try and find it, just so I'd have the right information for the meeting tonight. The stuff that you can print out is just a novice person who's not an architect. I could only get bits and pieces of the plan. Why didn't we have the plan shared with the community? Why couldn't they have these drawings that people could interpret and understand? We need to have that in our community, and we need community input about that. All we got before is we gave you suggestions. We didn't know what you came up with until, you can't really look at that stuff easily. I think we need an additional meeting, personally, and a way to at least share the plans in an easier to read way. They should mark where people's houses and property are, where the cross streets are. You can't even read that, know where you are on the street. And the other thing I'm really concerned about, our house is over 100 years old. A lot of people have old plumbing, and they have old electrical and all of that. And for many of those property owners, it was never really talked about, oh yeah, we're going to underground this. Well, who's going to pay for that? And there's no money available to the residents to help. So when people have another $10,000 bill, so they can be part of the project for bikes. And I've loved Bike Pass, but this is not a good one. I drive all around Berkeley and Oakland, I have for years, and they put their bike streets, which I love. I always drive on Alcatraz because it's not Ashby. They don't put it on the main road. You don't put the main busiest street like Ashby and University and bikes. They don't exist. The bikes go on Alcatraz. They go on another street. I'm happy on College. I know the bikes are going to be where they are. It's safe for me. It's safe for the bicyclists. You don't mix the most traffic, an old highway where all the commercial traffic is from SPD and other people, with a bike lane. I think Searles is a better option. But I think this plan needs to slow down a bit and actually really include the community more. I went to a few of the meetings. I did, I put stuff online, but I never even got to see the plan really until tonight. And it was not understandable from the stuff that I can download from your agenda item easily. So please, slow this down. You want to include the community, and we'll have the best project if we do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Chris Whittingham, and I live at 602 Zion. And all I have to say is, instead of waiting for funding, waiting 2 years for funding or whatever, throw in a couple of stop signs at the roundabout. That's all I'm talking about, not bicycle traffic or any of that. I can do it in a weekend. You give me the stop signs. This is just a test, right? You throw in the stop signs and see if it solves some of the problems, which is speeding, right? So that's all I have to say. A couple stop signs right at where the roundabout would go would do it, I think.
Thank you. Thanks.
Hi, my name's Eileen Kennedy, and I'm at 618 Zion Street. I've been there nearly 22 years, and I see the need to slow the traffic down. It's a tough road to ride a bike on. These are facts. It's hard to pull out. We don't have a garage, so we park on the street. But making it bigger, making it more invested in being a transportation artery isn't going to help make it, in my opinion, safer or slowed down or quieter. It's really hard as it is to back out of my driveway, like every driveway. And 618 is right across the street from Forest Charter. So that's a concern I have. I like Leal's idea and Terry's support of a bike lane on Searles. At some of the meetings we went to, they talked about how that's the original railroad, what's it called, a small railroad? Yeah, line, and how it can go all the way even up through Robinson and then connect with the ridge, with the overpass going down into Brunswick over there. And, I'm a parent. As a mom, I think it'd be safer for the kids to be on a quieter road. And when Leal brought up the costs of homeowners footing the bill for upgrading our own connections, that's a concern. 618 was built in the 1890s. It was extensively renovated in the past 20 years. It's a fully modernized house, but these are real costs that we're all looking at. So that's my 2 cents. Yeah.
Thank you, Ellie. More public comment on this item? Back to the council then. Council, yes, Gary.
I have a number of questions and comments. Do you expect any cost to individual homeowners for reconnections and associated with this project?
No, just to clarify, there's not, there's no plan to underground. We would love it if PG&E would underground lots of areas around the city, but that requires a separate process. For this project, what we typically do is we use the public code that requires them to relocate for us. Like if we're building.
Who is them?
PG&E. So yeah, there would not be cost to homeowners. There would be cost to PG&E because they would have to relocate their poles.
Let me rephrase that, then, the question then, because the statement was that we're going to do something with water lines that is going to cause homeowners to have to reconnect, get permits, and pay for reconnection fees because of the way we're moving water lines. Is that accurate?
No, when we do projects like this, we'll move the meter box, but we'll pay for that reconnection.
So there'll be no cost to the homeowners for that?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That's one question I had. The other question, another question I had was, I lost it on that one. Okay, I'm just going to go to the comments. I mean, no offense to anyone here at all, but this has been one of the healthiest, best-run public processes that we've seen on a project like this in the city. After the first meeting did not go well, I worked with Brian and I talked to the consultants, and thank you so much, Emily, to ensure that we had a process that it included as many folks as possible. And it was a really well-run, legitimate process with multiple meetings. It is confusing, but we did have drawings for everything on the tables with multiple possibilities, with everyone to look at, with professionals there to answer any questions. So that was well done. We are also, as you noted, continuing to take public input on this process. And that's a really important place to insert your concerns, because we can see a question that wasn't asked about meters led to an assumption that there would be a significant homeowner cost, which there would not be with this type of project. So let's see. But it was really well done, and I missed the other one. Crosswalks at Argyle, I started trying to understand the configurations of the crosswalks between, I think it's Brock here, Argyle here, and it tends to put a mid between intersection crosswalk, which is not the safest way to do crosswalks. And I was looking at that and considering it, I know it's about the kids, but if the crosswalk were moved down to the intersection at Argyle and went across the same, it would likely accomplish the same process of getting people across the street in the same area, allowing them to access the market without a midsection crossing, because they're extremely dangerous. People don't expect to see them. And I'm, I remain open, but also thank you so much for recognizing the parking and the alternative and the necessity of considering fruit and juice and ham stand and Ola Tortillas, because it's a mess already. They have no parking, marginal parking already, and the statement that, well, they shouldn't have been put there in the first place, okay, they probably shouldn't have, but they're there. So thinking about that and supporting the businesses is critical. So thank you for considering that piece, and also thank you for the timeline, because by my estimates, and I'm okay at this, even if we got first round funding, we're probably 3 years out from breaking ground, and we would, in the final design, we're not approving a final design tonight. We're approving a conceptual design to apply for a grant that will help us finalize the design, which will then include more input to really dial it in. So we're not approving a finished project tonight. Is that true?
That's correct, yeah.
And what we're doing is putting together something to determine that it can be funded, and then we'll take it from there. If we get the funding, then we move to design, and we can open it back up and finesse it. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, we'll definitely have more workshops, just like the multimodal corridor on Highway 49. Caltrans is doing the design, and they've had two more workshops during design, so there's opportunity.
Thank you.
To change the plan.
Thank you. That's what I got.
And on that note, can you be a little more specific about how businesses and residents will continue to be engaged before those final plans?
We would probably, if we got the go-ahead, we'd make the application, and there would be a pause between now and December. And then if awarded, we'd get going again with design and public workshops and start, doing much more site-specific analysis. And with specific addresses and everything kind of worked out in detail. Right now, it's a planning level study, so it doesn't have that high level of detail that you would see for final design.
Okay. Can you just be a little more specific about how residents will be able to engage? How will they be notified? How can they participate? When can they expect that?
If the grant is successfully awarded, the first part of that grant would be the project approval environmental documentation phase that would go into looking at the current concept and any potential alternatives to that concept. As part of that process, there'd be several public workshops prior to coming to the council with the preferred alternative and approval of that environmental document, depending on the type of environmental document. And then as the project moved into and it's part of the project approval environmental documentation phase, you take the conceptual plans to about a 30% design level. And so that community input would kind of finalize that design preferred alternative, and then it would move into the next phase, which would be design and then right away.
Great. Thank you for laying out that process. Just so folks know, there will be much more touch points where you can give feedback before anything is finalized. As we're doing that, I just want to echo what Gary said about the crosswalk at Argyle. That makes a lot of sense to me. I've heard it from a number of people. Also want to echo the sentiments of narrower streets do really slow down the traffic. I'm interested in seeing the 10 feet. I know that, when we expanded the sidewalks on Commercial Street and narrowed the street, people were super concerned about that. And we went, we expanded the sidewalks much more than people initially wanted to. And I'm always amazed on Commercial Street how that's really, really slowed things down. Because remember, it used to be really bottlenecked there. So big fan of that. And also the raised crosswalks. And I think just thinking about this project, I think there's like an underlying philosophical idea of like, how do we want our town to look in 10 years, in 20 years? And I think for me, this goes in the right direction. It's like slower streets, multimodal movement, less car dominance, more public safety planning, which really allows us to be more connected. So I'm excited about this. I think that rural models usually tend to be cars first. And yes, we all have cars and we drive cars and we want to be able to get out of our driveways for sure. And if we can find ways to make young people safe, people pulling out of their driveways safe, people wanting to be on foot more safe, I think that'll be a good future for all of us. So thanks for your work on this.
Yeah, I'll echo the thanks for your work on this, because this is a lot of work, and, you know, the public engagement process, I think you guys have been responsive to the largest extent, you know, with the public comment, and just coming back with the parking issues over at Food and Juice, that was, you know, responsive and you know, almost real time. You know, with this grant, you know, I mean, one of the things, I want to just take a step back. We would be so fortunate as a community to get this funding here. You know, this funding usually goes to larger jurisdictions, you know, that compete on a lot higher playing field than we do. And the fact that we're in here and we're going to have a competitive application is really exciting to me. You know, one of the concerns I have, though, is I know that a lot of this is driven by collision data. And I don't know what the collision data is on the Zion Street corridor. You know, is there not a lot? No, okay. So is that a big factor, or is that SS4A that has more collision data in it?
Thank you for that question, Councilmember Fleming. So yes, I believe there was one collision reported in the corridor within the last 5 years. Now, ATP, the Active Transportation Program, does look at collision history, but not to the same level as, say, the Highway Safety Improvement Program or the Safe Streets for All program, which is a federal program. And within the Active Transportation Program, what has happened historically is, even if you don't have a high statistic of fatal and severe injuries, there is argument of, well, why are people not biking or walking on this corridor? And I think we know, and we can see almost every Friday, why students aren't biking to school. They're actually biking to school with the bike bus down to the two schools in the corridor. So demonstrating maybe why there could not be, or why there are not so many accidents, is actually a reason why you may want to award funding to such a project to improve safety, because people are not using it. So
No, so that
hopefully
makes
that
sense.
answers the question.
That's a great answer. Thank
So
you.
yeah, so it would not go against the project per se.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm supportive. I appreciate you guys listening to the feedback that you get and incorporating as much of it as possible. I know this is a tough, you know, process, so good luck for all of us.
Thank you. I think we've once again proven that the room is smarter than any one of us. I've heard issues raised here that will be addressed, I'm fairly certain. And I think it's important to take the next step, which is to secure the funding so that we can get to concrete plans that address these specific issues, like a stop sign on Doan or raised sidewalks at every crossing that goes across Zion Street, or that alternative parking scheme. But we need first to get to the funding. So is there any other comment from the council or from you?
I would just add, this is the most competitive grant that you can go after in terms of road construction. The Active Transportation Grant is the most highly competitive grant in the state.
It is.
And I have a lot of confidence that you guys can pull it off.
Me too.
Well, you look at their statistics. They've got a good track record.
They do. So where are we? I would
move-
entertain, yes?
Go ahead.
I would entertain a motion to adopt this resolution.
I move that we adopt the resolution.
I'll second that.
A motion by Councilmember Fernandez to adopt resolution, where is the number? 2026-10, seconded by Councilmember Fleming. Is this a roll call or just a voice vote?
This is a roll call.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Peterston?
Yes.
Councilmember Fleming?
Yes.
Councilmember Fernandez?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cici?
Yes. Good luck, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Emily.
I am going to move us ahead to agenda item number 9, and then we are going to take a break. So, okay?
Make it quick.
Agenda number 9, which is consideration of, 1, award of a construction contract to Hanson Brothers for an amount not to exceed $1,104,155. 2, authorize a project contingency of 10% not to exceed $110,416. 3, identify and preserve a location within the project for public art. And 4, authorize the city manager to execute any contracts or related documents for the Searles Avenue Sidewalk Extension Project. We left the best part for the last there. This is about the Searles Avenue Sidewalk Extension Project. Okay, could we please have a presentation, Brian?
Thanks. I'll keep it brief. This is a project that came about at the request of citizens wanting a sidewalk where there was no sidewalk, and it took a while to get the funding, but it's very much similar to the request from neighbors on Nevada Street. So that's how these projects happen. We get those requests and then we prioritize them. And the prioritization is in the CIP. So this project's been in the CIP for quite a while. But we got the funding, did the design, and we're recommending award of a contract. And it would be a new sidewalk on Searles Avenue from Valley to Sacramento, and it would connect to existing sidewalks at the freeway near Chevron, and also connect to sidewalks at Clark Street. So it would provide a missing link, between downtown and Seven Hills.
Mm-hmm.
On almost any given day, you see people walking in the road on this street. So that's the project. In addition, adding artistic elements was considered by staff at the request of the Public Art Commission. So at their last meeting, the commission asked the council to approve the project with the condition that a location for a piece of public art may be preserved on one of the retaining walls by leaving a blank section of the wall that could be used for art, future, or we could do it in conjunction with the project.
Kind of like we did on Argyle, where we put a mosaic on the retaining wall.
So this map shows the extent of the project. I'd be happy to answer any questions about that. And the purpose is for pedestrian safety, connectivity, and just it does include traffic calming. So we're using these projects. We're using 10.5-foot lanes, but we're measuring to the center of the stripe, and the center line stripe itself is a foot wide. So when we say 10.5, it's really 10-foot clear lane.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be happy to talk to Bjorn and Grass Valley and see what they're doing. But I know that county does 11-foot lanes, and we're using 10.5 on this project. But we're also paying attention to where you're measuring from, because the stripe itself is wide.
Then people don't drive down the stripe. We hope.
With all those DUIs.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Public comment on this item.
Hi again. Could I have that drawing that you had up? Is it possible to show that graph of the project map? Okay, from memory, this is, wow, lost opportunity, because you talked about traffic calming. Great. If you notice that if you had two stop signs, I'm going to walk over here.
We can't see you over there.
They can't see it. Clark. Yeah, Sacramento comes down, and of course the previous project ends at the gas station, so Sacramento is still a toboggan chute. But if you had a stop sign at the bottom of Sacramento there, at a stop sign coming across the freeway, people could come from downtown, take and a stop sign at the foot of South Park, South Pine, and Clark. So people coming down South Pine would have to stop right at Clark. So cyclists coming from downtown would just be able, they have the right of way, they could just cut across on Clark. And when you get across on Clark, the freeway overpass traffic would stop for them. And the people coming down Sacramento would stop for them. So they would be able to zoom on to Searles. And by the way, it's a trolley line. The railroad went to where the gas station is. This is what was called the Nevada County Traction Company. I think they lasted about 20 years. Then the autos came and that was it. So anyway, Cyril's, one more time, is a perfect traffic. It's slow. And I think one more thing, I believe there's a law that you can reduce by 5 miles an hour the speed limit of a street. So instead of being 25, you make it 20, which is, I think, is that type 2 electric bikes? I forget. Anyway, and from there, when you get over to Argyle, with a couple of stop signs, you can accomplish everything. So anyway, this is a great idea, but what you didn't put in was the idea of, well, maybe, what happens if bikes use this? And probably share the load. Anyway, that was a comment. It's just a lost opportunity, I would proffer, if you didn't, you know, multimodal, that's it. Okay, thanks.
More public comment? Seeing none, turning to the council. Anyone?
Yes,
Gary's ready.
Okay, Gary.
Ready. So much needed, and sometime, I don't have to answer me now, but sometimes I'd like to see where it ended up in the CIP in relation to the other project up on Nevada Street, which we've been talking about for years too. Right. But I suspect this one has been talked about for even longer because you see it. But and I don't want to go too in the weeds on this. I try not to do that. The streetlights, are those the fixed shape of the streetlights that we're going to have to live with? In the bid.
From Fonroche.
From Fonroche.
It's at the end of the presentation.
Okay, so we came up with that idea as probably the least cost way to light the crosswalk.
I'm not arguing at all about using the lights. They're almost identical to what we did in the commercial street lot. With the solar ones that you sink in the ground, doesn't require wiring, very well, they work very well. But my point was going to be that we rejected that exact kind of shade in the commercial street lot and went for the flat ones that are less obtrusive and really don't look like fake colonial things. So I was just not trying to get in the weeds on that, but when I saw those, I recalled that we went through that before when we did that, and that by far the preference was for the flat one. They've done really well. They're almost invisible, put off great light, and they work wonderful.
Okay.
So it's not about.
I wasn't part of that selection process, so I missed that. But
Yeah,
we can certainly use the same
Lou
lights.
and I found it.
We ended up in the same weeds. Yep.
We did. We found those lights at the League of Cities, and brought Sean over and said, "Look, this is what we need," because we were talking about security lighting with our parking study. And the lights in the commercial street lot are the same company, same style, different shade. All I'm talking about is the shade.
And they're dark skies compliant.
They're dark skies compliant and everything else. So that was my only comment. Great project, much needed for a long, long time.
Appreciate that.
Daniela?
I like sidewalks. Sidewalks are good. Let's keep doing them.
Doug?
Oh, yeah, no, I think, I mean, the fact that we have money to do this, you know, finally is a great thing. Now we got to find money for the other ones. Good work, Brian. Thank you.
About those lights, I noticed they're solar powered. Where will they go? Because a lot of Sacramento Street is in too deep of shade for solar panels to work.
So the new crosswalk would be at the bottom of Sacramento where it kind of levels out, and where there's better sight distance for a sidewalk. So it's closer to the freeway and at Clark Street.
At Clark Street. That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you. Any other discussion? I will then consider a motion to adopt this resolution. Is that
May I? I move that we award the contract contingency and authorize the city manager to execute related documents and direct staff to identify and prepare a location within the project for a future piece of public art, which I'm happy that we're adding that public art piece.
And I second.
I hear a motion by Councilmember Fernandez and a second by Councilmember Peterson Vote, please.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Councilmember Fleming?
Yes.
Councilmember Fernandez?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cece?
Yes. We will now take a brief break of 10 minutes. We will reconvene at, well, let's say 5 minutes to 8, okay? Thank you, folks.
Thanks, Lou.
Yeah, I was wondering if you were going to think about those lights. Yeah, because I looked at that and said, we specifically rejected that.
order. Item 10, receive information regarding sales tax produced in Nevada City. So this is an information item. We will not be taking action, but we will be hearing information.
Yes, thank you. So this item was requested by City Council at our last meeting. I'm happy to have been able to bring it back at the immediate next meeting.
Wow.
I don't know that that's always going to be the case, but
You're setting a high standard.
well, I might be, yeah. So you guys asked for two items, they're both here. So want to talk a little bit about sales tax structure. I do want to mention that we're going to focus on aggregated data and not get into talking about individual businesses. Individual businesses, we don't publish that information, it's confidential, and we don't publish any information where you could kind of figure out what their sales tax is. So I'd like us not to be referring to specific businesses as we go through and have any kind of discussion on it. But that's the overall where we're headed. So just for those who might not know, our Bradley Burns Uniform Local Sales and Use Tax law from 1955 allows us to pull in 1% of the sales tax generated within our jurisdiction. So our business is collected, they send it to the state, and then we get a portion of it back. And it's important that we understand that these funds are general fund dollars that can be used at our discretion for services. So many of the other dollars that we bring into the city have a lot of restrictions on them, so that's a very important factor. In addition, the voters of Nevada City have passed 3 separate measures to add to the sales tax, and we're not talking about that today because that's not true sales tax. We use the mechanism of collecting sales tax to collect those funds that go up to the state and come back to us, but those are separate and those are restricted by the community for what they can be used on. So that's a little bit different, and we won't be talking about that today. So overall, just want to note that you can go to our website, find the adopted budget. A lot of this information is in the budget. A lot of information is in the budget. But sometimes if you're not familiar with information, it can take a minute to figure things out, and how we call things and what you might think they are can be a little bit different. So this gives us an opportunity to share that information. So the first slide here, you can see, basically, this is how much money the city has in revenues overall, about $19 million. And some of those are special revenues that come in for certain types of things. For example, when you pay your utility bill, we can't use that on anything else but your utility bill. We collect grants and gas tax proceeds and all kinds of varieties of funds that we can only use on special things. So of the total budget of $19 million, 39% is the general fund. So this is kind of our pie to work with, and from there, we present budgets to council, they adopt them, and we spend the funds. I know $19 million sounds like a lot, but in fact, a small city of our size still has to do everything a big city does. And we haven't been in a growth pattern as a city. So then as expenses rise and we don't grow as a city for the most part, bringing in additional housing and property tax and things like that, then the items that we have to pay for are shared amongst those in the city that are here. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind as we move forward. So the next slide is talking about just the general fund, which you can find that again in our adopted budget online. We do amend the budget mid-year, so I pulled this from the adopted one that was easy to find on the website in case anyone wants to look. So now we're building a new pie that's just the general fund. So the general fund is made up of a variety of different revenue sources, but we're not going to go into all of them because the request was on sales tax. Interestingly enough, the sales tax of 41% is in the pie chart is actually made up of a few things. It does have our TOT tax, which is not true sales tax. It also has Measure F, which is our cannabis excise tax. And then it has the Bradley Burns tax as well. So that's the overall pie of our general fund. And then the 41% that we've typically called sales tax has a couple of different things in it. And I'm gonna go to the next slide. Now, we work with a company called HDL, so we contract with them, and they provide us a lot of good information on our sales tax, where it comes from, who it comes from, rankings. The only thing we can really publish is the top 25 businesses that our sales tax comes from in alphabetical order. That's included in our budget as well, so you could go find that if you were interested. But our 2024 sales tax actuals were $1.4 million. So 1.4 million of the 19 million was sales tax. I think I was even a little bit surprised by that. I was thinking it was going to be quite a bit higher. It represents about 8% of the budget. So even more interesting, as we've transitioned how we shop and how we participate in entertainment and things like that, our sales tax has changed a little bit over time, as it has changed in almost all cities. We get a majority of our sales tax from two places, which is the state and county pools and the fuel and service stations. So that's almost about 50% of the tax that we get. So when you buy something online, they try and attribute things back to where they originated from. So that's a nice way for us to be able to get those funds. And I would love to dive into the state and county pools and see what's really going on in there. The nice thing for us is Nevada City address pops up all the place outside of our city. So I'm hoping we're pulling in a little extra, but I don't know. I didn't look into that yet. I don't really know. But in general, state and county, they pool it and then they distribute it back out to us. And the fuel and service stations. So that's a majority of the taxes, or about 50% of the taxes. And then 18% of the sales tax revenue, so 18% of the 1.4 million, is attributable to our restaurants and hotels. So that is a little bit more than kind of in comparison to state. Oh no, I'm not going to move it yet. In comparison to other cities in the statewide pool, or the statewide numbers. And then our 9% comes from consumer goods, and so that's typically retail. So ours is actually fairly low, but I want to qualify that with, we have a lot of people going into other cities such as Grass Valley to purchase things, and we don't have any, large retail stores that would generate a good chunk of sales tax. Ours is mostly derived from the different unique shops that are here in downtown and in Seven Hills. So our restaurants and hotels, about $260,000 a year, and our retail stores, $130,000 a year. And then moving on, this actually provides you a comparison, which I moved my slide. So this is a comparison by industry. Well, the graph is the sales tax by
Sector.
comparison in terms of what the city does versus what the state does, the HDL clients at the state. So state and county pool, 26%, state 17%. So you can kind of see where we track higher and where some of our risk is. It's things that, impact restaurants will be more impactful in our city than other places. So we would just want to keep our eye on that and make sure, as we do, try and be business friendly, as well as, a couple of other things. But we also want to make sure that we're not losing any of the large sales tax contributors and that we're bringing additional businesses in. So we flesh out kind of our diversification of where our sales tax comes from. Which is kind of the fun part is, what does the city need? what are people leaving to go buy on the regular basis that we could possibly bring here so that those sales tax stays, local and doesn't bleed off to a city 4 miles down the road. And then a couple of different notes. I don't have a slide for this, just we also have the opportunity to have set up geographical areas within HDL. So they report out on the Seven Hills District, the Historic District, the Tech Center, and then the fuels. Now in the staff report, it talks a little bit about how I took the fuel out because I think we isolate those as to not to unfairly influence what was happening in the district. And we know that the Tech Center / Bodie Hive is often considered Seven Hills. But again, I could see former managements a long time ago wanting to know what's going out in that area, and is it is it increasing or declining? So we can take a look at that. So overall, the report shares that the historic district brings in about $427,000 a year in sales tax. Seven Hills District brings in $360,000, and the Tech Center is at $11,691. And then the fuels make up the rest of that.
Faded away.
Oh. Okay. So in addition to that, this is just, my first dive into the detail on the sales tax. We do have a couple of tools that were purchased prior to my arrival, which will be very helpful as we try and build out both the diversification of our sales tax and increase our sales tax. So we have a subscription to Placer AI, which is a tool where we can take a look at different businesses. We can find out, for example, today I was looking at the National. Where did they go before they came to the National? Where did they go after they went to the National? How long did they stay there? What are the very favorite spots that people that stay at the National go to? It's all based on cell phone data. So that's a really exciting tool to be able to utilize as we think very strategically about growth in businesses, what
not heard because the internet was down. We'd like to make sure the folks at home could hear it. Would you mind stating it again?
You're warmed up.
I want to make sure Stephen can hear me first.
Steve, or is it?
Yeah.
We're going to make sure,
Let's make
Todd,
sure.
we're going to make sure that someone who's listening
Hang on
online
a second.
can hear you.
we are back.
Is it back?
Okay,
Yep, we're
perfect.
back.
Thank you, Todd, for restating.
All right.
Thank you. Is this, yeah, there we go. All right, well, good. I can do it without this now. Good evening, council members. My name is Todd Wahoski. I'm a resident and store owner on Broad Street and a KVMR broadcaster. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Nevada City Merchants. And so thank you to the staff for the sales tax report. The historic district generated $427,000 in sales tax last fiscal year. That's roughly 30% of the city's entire sales tax revenue in one geographic area, the historic district. So that is the economic center of Nevada City regarding sales tax. Restaurants and hotels account for 18% of our local sales tax, well above the statewide average, but Nevada City's retail generates only 9% compared to 16% statewide. And why is that? Because the retail ecosystem, the shops, galleries, specialty stores is what keeps foot traffic flowing. When ground floor commercial space remains vacant or converts to uses that don't serve walk-in customers, fewer people browse and there's less sales tax overall. Each conditional use permit this council approves for ground floor space on Broad Street and Commercial Street is a revenue decision. It's a land use decision, yes, but it's also a decision about whether the historic district pedestrian commercial ecosystem stays healthy or fragments. The Nevada City Merchants have drafted a proposal for the general business zone rewrite that protects ground floor commercial character while providing ample space for all business types outside the core blocks. And we respectfully request the council place this proposal on a future agenda, which I've handed right over there. And thank you for your time and your service to the city, and have a good night.
Thanks again.
Thanks, Todd. Again, yes. Anybody else?
Thank you. Is there other public comment on item 10? Council comment.
Oh, yeah. First?
No.
Oh, I'm happy to go if that's acceptable to you.
Do it.
Do it.
First, thank you, Carrie. I requested this item, and I appreciate the quality of the report and the information and data, and that you love doing this. I appreciate that very much, because these kinds of conversation and this kind of information is very important to future decision-making for this council. Absolutely critical. I'm not going to pick too hard at things. You can look at data any way you want, and you can look at the historic district as the top generator. But when you start breaking that down and you get to 8% for retail, what is a merchant? I don't know. Is a merchant a retail person? Is a merchant a hotel? Is a merchant a restaurant? So I think there's some parsing to do. I agree with you entirely, Todd, that we have a very important conversation in front of us about what to do with the ordinance and the use of the buildings, storefronts, et cetera. And I think we're willing to have that. First, we have to do things like a budget and get there. Because we do need to have that conversation, and we do need to recognize the changes. And I think one of the changes that's so visible is in that county pool, that people are buying online now, and that money comes back to us. You know, when there was no county pool when online purchases first started, and people were scrambling like heck to figure out how to get sales tax back out of that, and people were hemorrhaging sales tax with online sales because there was no return. So the world has changed. The world has changed dramatically. It's certainly changed dramatically since the ordinance about storefronts were written. And also, you know, I love Nevada City. I love the historical nature. I love the size. I love everything else. The reason it's not that we've treated retail badly is that we haven't grown a population base, nor have we diversified an economy, because we're afraid of what will happen to our town if we do that. We're at a point where we're right at the margin for paying for this place. And you can see that with our water fees, and you can see that, you know, we subsidized water fees for so long, and now we're in trouble about that. And it's because we haven't grown the financial base, which is comprised of many, many different things. And that includes housing, and that includes a diversified economy with other sources of revenue. I was taken to task recently in the newspaper for saying that I didn't favor running a city on a tourist-based economy, and I squared that with Todd today. Thank you, Todd. Always happy to talk to you, because a tourist-based economy is one of the most unstable things you can possibly have to run a community on. And if you didn't recognize from COVID what that did to people, because people stopped going places. And if people don't go places and you're a tourist economy, you have no tourists. You have no sales tax. You get hurt really bad. And that's why a diversified economy is so important. And the other thing I really like to comment about that Carrie's thought about, what could we do? I have a great answer. What could we do about where people go spend money outside of town and where they could spend in town? Let's take the Alpha building and turn it back into a hardware store, which it was, because
Trader Joe's.
but as a hardware store, that's where, you know, I hate leaving town as much as I do to buy hardware. And I like that I can get it and get what I need, but man, we all spend a lot of money at Hills Flat and BNC.
The city does as well.
The city does as well. So at any rate, so there's a lot of ways to think about it. And it's
And for
really,
$6 million, it can be yours.
it's really important that we not limit our thinking to self-interest when it comes to this broader conversation. It's really critical. And so I totally support the conversation going forward. Thank you so much for this information. I think it's really important. And I always want to come with the data and the information so we make the best decision possible. And that's why I asked for this report.
Great. Mr. Vice Mayor, if I
Yes,
may?
yeah.
Speaking of data, yeah, I think data is absolutely important. It gives us a lot of information. This data for me shows a lot more nuance than I recognized. It shows proportionality for me. It shows that our sales tax revenue is much smaller than I thought. And so, you know, I think that we're more economically hybrid than recent public discourse might suggest. And I think there's a whole picture here, right? We've got, you know, as Todd mentioned, hospitality and dining. We've also got destination activities and fuel stations, online sales tax, and like small specialty retail. And so that's the whole thing, right? And of course, this report is specifically about sales tax generation because that's what we asked for, Gary asked for. But I want to say that when we have conversations about revenue, it tends to sort of flatten our community into like economic units. And when we do that, I think we miss a lot of the nuance and the life. Like this data doesn't tell us a lot of information. It doesn't tell us about the reality for workers. It doesn't tell us about the realities for housing. And it doesn't say anything about the service economy, you know, who can afford to live here, you know, infrastructure strain. So all of these things together, I think, are part of that conversation. That conversation about, you know, looking at our zoning ordinance and how do we really move forward in a way that's best for our community. Something that I'd like to move away from is framing every conversation through fear that any change will somehow destroy Nevada City. I don't think that's true. Our small businesses and tourism matter deeply. That's not up for debate. And I believe that this council is being asked to grow in a more balanced, more resilient, more lived-in community that people don't just visit and romanticize, but one that is deeply livable for the people who call it home. And to be able to strike that balance is really important. I'm looking forward to the conversations too.
Thank you for that, Daniela. That was really well put. And to touch on something that Gary said, which I agree with as well, is I think this is a great jumping off point for us to curate and look at, and I think you touched on this too, is curating what do we need here, what's missing. You know, I was talking to Gordon about the placer data before, and that kind of information will tell us, what are people doing when they leave our jurisdiction? You know, what are they going and buying down there? Is there a way we can replace that too? What other, you know, retail, you know, operations are doing well in other jurisdictions that are like ours? You know, I think there's a lot of stuff we could look at as far as being proactive with our retail and anything that generates, you know, tax for us. You know, I think we just do a top to bottom overview of, okay, you know, how can we squeeze any more dollars out of this segment, you know, out of this sector rather. And I think that's, you know, I think that this is a good step in doing that. One of the things I wanted to know is if HDL could possibly give us an interactive dashboard with some of this information, so we don't have to, you know, I mean, there's this, you know, it lives somewhere in real time, right? So I don't know if there's any prohibitions against that, but, you know, they can still aggregate the data so we don't know who's who. But is there a way that they may be able to provide us with a little bit more of a you know, periodic snapshot on this, so you don't have to go and do the work every time? Just say, here's what's our dashboard look like, and or maybe we put it on our website, and you know, and we make that public. I don't know.
So they do produce, I believe it's quarterly reports that we can publish so it has more aggregate data. So that's something I believe you might have done in the past and has not been carried forward. So that's something we can look at. There is access, but you have to sign a bunch of confidentiality information. And I actually found the dashboards not to be that super helpful.
Okay.
So I actually said, I need a meeting. I needed to know some of those things, but they're, you know, they list and rank the top 100 businesses. I can see, you know, for example, that retail doesn't pop up in the top ranked 100 businesses that produce sales tax until about 45. You know, so I can see some of those things. You have to dig through all of their, you know, confidential reports, but there is a public version that they do publish that we can think about either giving it to council or let me see what the best solution would be and then kind of come back with that, but yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
I just had one question about the analysis. I don't see entertainment in here. So we have theaters, performing arts, and a movie theater, and